Yes. So first, thank you. I'm Adam Smolensky. I lead the user research experience team, and I'm looking forward to answering your questions about our team, what we currently work on, and the projects that we're working on now. So looking at the agenda, looks like Susan, you have the first question.
I do, and I'm excited about it. So in going over the deck, I saw that learnability is still an issue, and we also know that findability on the doc site is an issue. And I was wondering if you had any thoughts about those two being related. But then I also saw you're going to research how people learn GitLab. So I would like to hear about that.
Awesome. I can talk at length about that. Yeah. So I think, so you're referring to slides 4 and 5, which are really around some of the SUS or system usability scale findings, how learnability surfaces up there as one of the pain points. I think it's probably good to add a little bit of context for those who may not know around what was found in a recent survey in the doc site. Will is on the call. I was wondering, Will, if you can just high level explain what was done and high level findings that can help people contextualize Susan's question a little bit more, and then I'll follow up with my answers.
Sure. Thanks, Adam. So basically, one of the projects that I've been helping Susan out with is a docs site survey. So basically, it was done at 2 points in time. The first survey was done last year, second half of August, and the follow-up survey was done second half of August this year. They contain the same questions, so we were able to easily compare kind of last year to this year. And basically, some of the high-level findings from that was we saw that the percentage of visitors who were unable to find what they were looking for increased from about 20% last year to 31% this year. So we did some subsequent digging to find out, what were they looking for? What were they trying to find? And we did notice that people reported less success finding information around new features, information around instructions, and just information to aid in some of the purchasing decisions about whether I should acquire GitLab or just purchase a license, those sort of things. So that kind of gives some insight into what they were looking for and kind of what they weren't able to find successfully. But also we did find that users were able to find who were able to find what they were looking for. About 91% indicated that, like, hey, this information is useful. So as long as we can just get them to the right place, that's a good sign. Great. So at that point, I'll hand it back to Adam.
Yeah, thanks for that overview. So with that context in place, to answer your questions, Susan, your first question, do I think the continued problems with findability on the doc site contribute to the problem around learnability? That's a tough one. Maybe. The reason why it's a very specific question you're asking there, and I'm going to sneak into your next question around so that's referring to slide 15 around some of the work that I'm personally doing now, where I'm interviewing new users and existing users of GitLab to really understand how they learn our product. And I'm a little over halfway through that now, and it's been incredible what I'm learning. So, just not to reveal too much or too early, but the doc site is a very important learning source for people learning the product. In fact, they also rank it very high on effectiveness of learning also. So really good news there. I did, however, run into a couple of participants that had no idea the doc site existed. So I think there's some things we can do there for sure. But in terms of how they find information on it, a lot of it starts searching in Google first, rather than navigating the doc site itself. So I think that's an important behavior that we need to really think about and make sure that that scenario plays out well. So I'm hoping that answered your question to some extent. Yeah. All right. Thank you, Susan. Valerie is up next. She looks like she's not here, so I will voice it for her. Slide 16. So that deals with an MR project that Anna is presently working on. And Valerie asks, can we share the more detail on the next steps of implementing a survey on the MR view? Again, this one I think requires a little bit of context. So I was wondering, Anna, if you could jump in and maybe share a little bit of background, why an in-context survey is a good idea, and where we're at right now with it.
Yeah, sure. So this survey is all about measuring users' perceived experience with the MR performance. So, how fast or slow basically the MR view is for them as they engage with it. And this is really to complement other more objective data that we have around performance. And if we manage to track this user sentiment, we'll basically have a more holistic view on our performance, especially since we know from other data sets that performance is, something that users complain about. We want to improve upon it, but also want to make sure as we objectively improve, so we do get better with performance, that users also feel happier and more satisfied with it. Because imagine the situation that we do objectively improve the performance, but then users still complain about it and are not happy with it, we didn't really succeed, right? Because we want to have happy users in the end. So what we want to do here is launch a in-product survey on the MR view. It's a very short, crisp survey, just 3 questions, all closed-ended, to capture basically how, in essence, how satisfied they are with the MR view overall and how satisfied or dissatisfied they are with the performance aspect of it. And this is something new to GitLab. There is, so far, we do have a notification or broadcast notification feature that allows us to invite users and SAS for surveys, but it takes them out of the context. And why is that not so great? It's because they are taken out of the context and away from the task that they initially wanted to do. So with this approach, we want to actually launch the survey or render the survey within the MR view. This is not a trivial thing to do. And I have to say, for the first iteration, we won't be doing it either. We'll probably have to go back to sending users outside of the MR view to assess, to gather the data. But the other big thing that we actually want to do here is to have more control over the sampling. In other words, who is seeing that survey. That's also a downside that we don't have right now with the broadcast message, that we don't have any or very limited control over who is seeing that survey. And this is something that's not ideal, because if you think of SAS data or a paid net promoter score, we always have dedicated buckets and cohorts of users who were measuring the sentiment from. And we want to have the same situation here, because we suspect that there are differences if a user is on a free subscription or if they're on a paid subscription, or if they are new or experienced users, they might have different sentiment towards performance. So we want to make sure that we have control over who is seeing that survey. And that requires a lot of engineering effort. And there is a lot of discussions happening at the moment if we are even able to build that mechanism. How does it impact performance? Since we're measuring performance, we want to make sure we're not, increasing performance just with that mechanism. We're also looking into alternatives of, what if we don't sample like, what if you can't trigger it, but we have like another way of feeding in that information? Like, can we do that? Do we have the data sources? Things like that. So there's a lot of discussion happening. And right now, where we're at is that the code review team is looking into this. They have been tight on their resources from an Eng perspective over the summer. So it hasn't been the focus yet, but I know Pedro is actually bringing it up tomorrow in a weekly meeting to bring this more forward and get a good estimate from engineering on the level of effort for this project.
Great, thank you. I just want to call out that I think it's a great idea that you're taking an iterative approach on this, because I know it's not ideal from a research perspective. It's not easy, but it's better than nothing, I think. So it's good. Thank you. I hope that answers Valerie's question. I'll follow up with her. Sam, you're up next.
Great. Hi, everyone. I was curious for slide 6 for 3-stage adoption. Who did we interview, and if we limited it to existing customers versus net new? And if we did include net new, how we thought about slicing the data by new signups or free users versus existing paying customers. And Jackie did a great job kind of answering in line.
Great. Yeah, I can see that. So, okay, if there's any other questions regarding that, yeah, feel free to just document them here and mention her. So, yeah.
Will do.
Thank you. Michael, next. Another slide 6.
And this is also slide 6. Yeah. So I noticed that one of the reasons it said that people adopt is that they use internal documentation that explains and bridges GitLab to the business value. And I'm wondering, did we happen to get copies of that documentation, or do we know at like what level it was at and how it was positioned? Because I wonder if there's an opportunity for us to provide similar content to namespace creators and team leads so that they can have it ready to go, so they can provide to their teams, so that we can increase the adoption within the team.
Yeah, I like that approach. That's a question. Let's shelve that for Jackie to answer, since she was the one who handled that entire research project. So I will follow up with her and add mentioning here.
Right.
So,
thank you.
Yeah. Kirsten.
Hey, good morning. I was looking at slide 19, and it's really interesting to see that we're going to kick off research effort on the global search at GitLab, which I've noticed in SUS has a lot of feedback. And I was just wondering, actually, I should link here. We have an initiative we're kicking off and plan to consolidate the searches. We have 5 different searches actually implemented with different filters. But I'm just wondering if there's any overlap we could do there in terms of the UX research going on the main search, if we could use that also for this advanced search that we're going to be adding into the plan objects, and how we could collaborate on that.
Yeah, thank you for making that more visible. So this project will, I believe this falls in your area. I think you're helping with this one. Did you have any thoughts? And I hate to put you on the spot right now.
Yeah, I don't necessarily have any thoughts about like how to integrate it at this point. I mean, just some background context on the work that we're doing. This is really just like a jobs to be done sort of kind of foundational study to understand, how people are interacting with search in GitLab for their roles. So we haven't really broken it down by like, traditional search versus advanced search, but, we're certainly open to like having additional conversations outside of this meeting about kind of places where we can try to integrate some of the questions that you might have, or doing like a separate, research project altogether.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, and a hypothesis I have is that certain personas use search in different ways globally. or would use it in different ways if they could get to their, if they only use issues and the global search responded to that. So just there's a lot of questions that we could collaborate on, so it would be good to overlap.
Okay.
Hey,
Great.
Kristen, I'll just jump in really quick because I work a little bit with the global search team. I think your hypothesis is right. I have that hypothesis too. There are some good reasons to have those search interactions be different, but I'm really happy that you shared this issue, and I think there should be collaboration on the research so we can validate that and then get it into the design system, documented our rationale as for why or why not we are making those things consistent.
Okay. That would be great. And yeah, another thing we're seeing is like the query is separate from the viewing of the data or the filtering of the data. So that's like just a concept we could also validate so we don't do it twice.
Yeah, so you would work with Will, and then also Nick Brandt is the product designer, and he has been diving a lot, like very deeply into, how we're designing our advanced search and why, and how people are using it. So
Great.
definitely, thanks.
Awesome, thank you.
Well, it looks like there are no further questions. Thank you all for attending and asking some really great questions. I'm glad that we were able to bring some visibility to your project, Christian, and being able to link Will and Nick together on that. So that's excellent. Michael will follow up on yours, and everyone else, thank you very much and have a great rest of your day.